Hello, everyone, and welcome to Daily English Learn. I'm Eva.
And I'm Mark. Great to have you with us today.
So, Mark, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how sometimes students say they want to improve their English, but then months go by and they're still stuck at the same level?
Oh, absolutely. They buy books, they download apps, they watch videos, but somehow they never actually sit down and practice speaking or writing. It's like they're waiting for the perfect moment.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But here's the thing. We're not just going to talk about procrastination as a life problem. We're going to teach you the actual English words, phrases, and expressions you need when you talk about delays, excuses, motivation, and taking action. Because if you want to sound natural in English, you need to know how native speakers talk about these everyday situations.
That's right. By the end of this episode, you'll be able to describe your habits, explain why you've been delaying something, and even motivate yourself or others using real spoken English. Not textbook English, real English.
So stay with us. We're going to break this down step by step, just like we're sitting together in a classroom. Let's get started.
All right, Eva, before we jump into vocabulary, let's talk about something that almost every English learner experiences. They know they should practice speaking, but instead they keep reviewing grammar rules or watching videos without speaking out loud.
Yes, and that's a perfect example of avoidance. Now, avoidance is a really useful word. It means you're deliberately staying away from something because it feels uncomfortable or difficult. Let me say that again. Avoidance. It comes from the verb avoid, which means to stay away from something.
So if I say, I've been avoiding my English practice, it means I know I should do it, but I'm choosing not to because maybe it feels hard or embarrassing.
Exactly. And here's how you use it in real conversation. You might say, I've been avoiding speaking English with my colleagues because I'm afraid of making mistakes. Notice how natural that sounds. You're not just saying, I don't speak. You're explaining the feeling behind it.
Right. Now let's compare that with another word. Postpone. Postpone means to delay something until a later time. So if you say, I postponed my English practice, it sounds like you had a plan, but you decided to do it later.
Good point. So avoidance is more emotional. You're staying away because of fear or discomfort. But postpone is more neutral. You're just moving something to another time. Let me give you a sentence. I wanted to send that email in English, but I postponed it because I wasn't sure about my grammar.
Perfect. And here's another common phrase. I'll do it later. This is what people say all the time when they're procrastinating. But in English, we also say, I'll get to it later, or I'll deal with it later. These are very natural phrases.
Yes, and if you want to sound even more conversational, you can say, I'll get around to it. This means you intend to do it eventually, but you're not sure exactly when. For example, I've been meaning to practice my pronunciation, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
That's a great phrase. I haven't gotten around to it. It sounds much more fluent than just saying, I didn't do it. It shows that you know the task is waiting, but life got in the way.
Now, Mark, let's talk about one of the biggest reasons people delay things. Fear. But not just any fear. Fear of failure. And in English, we have some really specific ways to talk about this.
Absolutely. So first, let's look at the word afraid. You might say, I'm afraid of making mistakes. But here's something interesting. In spoken English, we often use afraid with to plus a verb. For example, I'm afraid to speak English in meetings.
Right, and that's different from afraid of, which we use with a noun or gerund, like I'm afraid of failure or I'm afraid of sounding stupid. Both are correct, but they're used in different situations.
Now, if you want to express this idea in a more conversational way, you can say, I'm scared to try, or I'm nervous about starting. These are softer, more personal expressions.
And here's a phrase that native speakers use all the time. What if? This is how we express worry or doubt. For example, what if I make a mistake? What if people don't understand me? What if my English isn't good enough?
Yes, and notice how we use what if to start a question about a possible negative outcome. It's very common when you're talking about fear or hesitation. So if someone asks you, why didn't you join the conversation? You could say, I don't know. I kept thinking, what if I say something wrong?
Exactly. That sounds natural and honest. Now, let's move to another phrase. I'm not ready. This is what people say when they feel they need more preparation before they start something. For example, I want to speak English fluently, but I'm not ready yet.
But here's the truth, Eva. A lot of times when we say, I'm not ready, we're actually just afraid. We're waiting for some perfect moment that may never come.
That's so true. And in English, we have a great expression for this, waiting for the right time. You can say, I've been waiting for the right time to start speaking English, but I realize there's no perfect time. I just have to begin.
All right, now let's talk about perfectionism. This is a huge reason people procrastinate, especially language learners. They think, if I can't speak perfectly, I won't speak at all.
Yes, and the word perfectionism is important to know. It's a noun that describes the habit of wanting everything to be perfect. But we also use the adjective perfectionist. For example, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I always delay starting new projects.
And here's a useful phrase, good enough. Native speakers use this all the time. It means something doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be acceptable. For example, my English doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be good enough to communicate.
That's a very powerful mindset shift. And in English, we also say, done is better than perfect. This is a common saying that means it's better to complete something imperfectly than to never start because you're chasing perfection.
Right, so if someone asks you, why are you taking so long on that report? You could say, I know, I need to stop overthinking it. Done is better than perfect.
Another phrase is letting go of perfection. You can say, I'm learning to let go of perfection and just focus on progress. Notice how natural that sounds.
And speaking of progress, let's talk about the word progress itself. Progress is both a noun and a verb. As a noun, we say, I'm making progress in my English. As a verb, we say, I'm progressing slowly but steadily.
Yes, and we often use the phrase step by step or little by little to describe slow, steady progress. For example, I'm improving my English little by little. I practice for 10 minutes every day. Now, Mark, let's move to something really practical. How do native speakers talk about starting something after a long delay?
Great question. So one common phrase is finally getting started. For example, after months of thinking about it, I'm finally getting started with my English speaking practice.
And you can also say, I finally took the first step. This is a very natural way to describe overcoming procrastination. For example, I was so nervous, but I finally took the first step and joined an online English conversation group.
Another phrase is breaking the cycle. This means stopping a repeated pattern of behavior. So you might say, I've been procrastinating for weeks, but today I'm breaking the cycle. I'm going to practice speaking for at least 5 minutes.
And here's a motivational phrase. Just start. It's very simple, but very powerful. In spoken English, we often give advice using short, direct phrases like this. Stop overthinking. Just start.
Yes, and another one is take action. This is more formal, but still very common. For example, I realized that thinking about learning English wasn't enough. I needed to take action.
All right, let's talk about distractions. This is a huge topic when it comes to procrastination. A distraction is anything that takes your attention away from what you should be doing.
Right, and we use distraction as a countable noun. So you can say, my phone is a huge distraction, or I have too many distractions at home.
And the verb is distract. For example, social media distracts me from studying, or I get distracted easily when I'm trying to focus.
Now here's a useful phrase, get sidetracked. This means you start doing something, but then you lose focus and start doing something else instead. For example, I sat down to study English, but I got sidetracked by YouTube videos.
That's very relatable. And another phrase is lose track of time. This means you were so focused on something, usually something enjoyable, that you didn't notice how much time passed. For example, I was scrolling through my phone and I lost track of time. Suddenly, an hour had gone by.
Yes, and if you want to talk about controlling distractions, you can say, I'm trying to minimize distractions, or I'm eliminating distractions from my workspace. Now, Eva, let's talk about motivation, because even if you understand why you procrastinate, you still need the motivation to actually start.
Absolutely. So, first, the word motivation. It's a noun and it refers to the reason or desire that makes you want to do something. For example, my motivation for learning English is to get a better job.
And the adjective is motivated. You can say, I feel motivated today, or I'm not feeling very motivated right now.
And here's an interesting phrase get motivated. This means to find or create motivation. For example, I watch English learning videos to get motivated to practice.
And we also use the phrase stay motivated, which means to keep that feeling of motivation over time. For example, it's hard to stay motivated when you don't see immediate results.
Right. And here's a common expression keep going. This is what you say to encourage someone or yourself to continue even when things are difficult. For example, I know it's tough, but keep going. You're making progress.
And another one is don't give up. This is very straightforward. It means don't stop trying. For example, learning a language takes time. Don't give up.
All right, Mark, let's talk about some really conversational phrases that native speakers use when they're talking about getting things done.
Sounds good. So one phrase is get the ball rolling. This is an idiom that means to start something. For example, I've been planning to improve my English for months. It's time to get the ball rolling.
I love that phrase. And another one is take the plunge. This means to make a big decision or start something even though it feels scary. For example, I was nervous about speaking English with native speakers, but I decided to take the plunge and join a language exchange.
Great example. Now, here's another useful one. Bite the bullet. This means to do something difficult or unpleasant that you've been avoiding. For example, I've been putting off my English presentation, but I need to bite the bullet and just do it.
And if you want to talk about focusing on something, you can say buckle down. This means to start working seriously and with focus. For example, I need to buckle down and study for my English exam.
Another phrase is get down to business. This means to stop delaying and start working on something seriously. For example, we've talked enough. Let's get down to business and start practicing our English.
Now let's talk about how you can encourage yourself using English, because self-talk is so important when you're trying to overcome procrastination.
Absolutely. So one phrase is, I can do this. It's simple, but it's powerful. When you feel nervous or overwhelmed, you can say to yourself, I can do this. I just need to start.
And another one is one step at a time. This reminds you that you don't have to do everything at once. For example, I don't have to become fluent overnight. I'll improve one step at a time.
Yes, and here's another encouraging phrase. I've got this. It's very casual and confident. It means you believe in yourself. For example, this English conversation might be challenging, but I've got this.
And if you want to focus on your progress, you can say, I'm getting better every day, or I'm making progress, even if it's slow.
Right, and here's an important one. It's okay to make mistakes. This is something every language learner needs to hear. You can say it to yourself or to others. For example, I'm going to speak English even if I make mistakes, because it's okay to make mistakes. That's how I learn.
All right, Mark, let's bring this all together. Let's imagine a real situation where someone has been procrastinating on their English learning and they're finally ready to start. How would they talk about it using all these phrases?
Great idea. So here's an example. I've been avoiding speaking English for months because I was afraid of making mistakes. I kept thinking, what if people don't understand me? but I realized I was being a perfectionist and waiting for the perfect time, which never came. So today, I'm breaking the cycle. I'm going to take the first step and just start. I know I'll get distracted sometimes and lose motivation, but I'm going to keep going, one step at a time. Done is better than perfect, right? I've got this.
Perfect, Mark. That sounds so natural. And notice how all those phrases fit together smoothly in real conversation.
Exactly. That's the goal. We want you to be able to express yourself naturally, not just memorize isolated phrases.
So everyone, let's recap what we've learned today. We talked about avoidance, postponing, and procrastination. We learned how to talk about fear, perfectionism, and distractions. We covered phrases like, I haven't gotten around to it, what if, done is better than perfect, and I've got this.
And remember, learning these phrases isn't just about vocabulary. It's about being able to describe your real feelings and experiences in English. When you can talk honestly about why you delay things or how you motivate yourself, your English becomes much more natural and confident.
Absolutely. So here's your challenge. After listening to this episode, choose one phrase that you learned today and use it in a real situation this week. Maybe you'll tell a friend, I've been avoiding practicing English, but today I'm taking the first step. Or maybe you'll say to yourself, I'm not going to wait for the perfect moment. I'm just going to start.
And remember, progress is better than perfection. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep moving forward, little by little, step by step.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Daily English Learn. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with your friends who are learning English.
And we'll see you in the next episode where we'll cover more real practical English that you can use every single day.
Until then, keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep speaking.
Take care, everyone.
Bye for now.